Hello everyone and welcome to a visual novel called Heart of Winter. This is like a prequel to Soul of Winter, so maybe I should have played this game first, but I didn't know that this game existed until I went to go comment on the Soul of Winter, their game page, and I looked at all their games, and there's Heart of Winter right there, so I had to play it. So let's go ahead and get started. Peter blew into his gloved hands to try to keep them warm against the cold. The wind blew snow from the ground into his face, and he had to keep wiping and to keep snow from his eyes. He didn't know how long he'd been out here, but the sky was dark and the forest was much scarier at night. Something brushed across his shoulder, and he turned around with a yelp to face the overhanging branch, laden with snow. It weighed more than it should have, and bent low enough that the twigs scratched his nose when he turned. He sighed and turned to look at the path his boots had left. It was dark, and he was cold, and he wasn't going to get very far in the dark. Besides, clouds were gathering up above, and if he didn't turn back before it started to snow, he might lose his path back to the village. He didn't realize someone was standing in front of him until he turned around. He yelped and fell back in the snow, staring up at the girl. She was thin and pale, and stared at him with icy blue eyes. "Who are you?" Who are you, and what are you doing in my forest?" The boy quickly got back to his feet and brushed snow off his pants. "My name is Peter, and I came looking for a maiden of winter." The girl tilted her head slightly. "And why are you seeking her counsel?" My mother is ill, very ill. My father said that she might not make it through the winter, but the village elders say that if we appease the maiden of winter, the snow will lessen, and though people might get better soon. And thought that people might get better soon. I'm not sure what they're trying to do with that one. And people might get better soon. The girl considered him for a long moment. "What did you say your name was?" "Peter?" "Peter." She rolled the name around on her tongue consideringly, as if tasting a new type of sweet. "And Peter, do you know what the maiden of winter would ask for in exchange for the season to fall early?" No. I guess I hadn't thought about it, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I don't want to lose my mother." "I see. Well, if you're as determined as you say you are, I can take you to the maiden." Peter's face lit up. "Really?" "Yes, the maiden and I are quite good friends. She may not be happy to see a human in her forest, though. I just want to ask. I promise. I won't do anything to hurt her." "All right. Follow me, then." She started into the forest. Peter followed after her quickly. His boots were loud, and he felt clumsy compared to how she seemed to glide over the snow. Her footsteps were light and delicate in comparison to his clumpy stomping. "Hey, wait!" She stopped and turned to look at him. "I told you my name. Can't you tell me yours?" "Why?" "Well, I want to know what to call you, and it's polite. Savanya. My name is Savanya." "Nice to meet you, Savanya." She blinked, seeming surprised to hear her name come from someone else's lips, before smiling softly. "It's nice to meet you too, Peter." And the two emerged into a wide clearing. It was in the center stood a tall castle made of snow, dimly lit from the inside by an otherworldly glow. The ice walls were thick and smooth, like the structure had been carved from a glacier, and shined. "Whoa. Do you like it? It's so cool. Can we go inside?" She nodded. They ascended the stairs to a large entrance doors, and Savanya pushed them open with a gloved hand. They swung into a main foyer which practically shone with the moonlight glinting off the ice structure. "This is amazing." "It is a massive building. It is hard to navigate if you do not know your way around, so please do not wander too far." "If it's so big, that means it would be great for a game of hide and seek." Hide and seek? It's a game. One person is it, and then they count to 10 seconds while all the other players find a place to hide. That sounds fun. Okay, I can be it first. But that is not fair. I live here and know the place better than you. Oh, you're right. I'll hide first then. You wait here and count to 10 and then find me, okay? Alright. Savannah turned. So the Ice Queen will be mad that he is walking around the forest, but she won't get mad if he is walking around the Ice Kingdom trying to hide? Yeah. I mean, I obviously know it's her from the last game. The kid should be like, well, if the Ice Queen sees me, am I dead instantly, or can we talk this out? Savannah turned to face the wall, closing her eyes and beginning her count. Peter ran off, his boots thumping along the floor. Despite it being so sleek, he didn't slip, as if it were stone or wood flooring. He hurried up the stairs into the main foyer, or to the second floor hallway, and sought out the alcove to hunker down in. Many of the little wall niches had ice pedestals with false bouquets on them, and he had to sit behind one of these delicately placed structures to hide appropriately. 8, 9, 10! Peter listened as Savannah's light footsteps wandered around the foyer. Then, up the stairs, she passed him on her way down on the hallway, and he had to smother a giggle into his gloved hands. Peter! Peter! Where are you? Her voice trailed off down the hallway, into one of the rooms Peter had spotted. She was in there for a long time searching before she came back out into the hallway. She stood in the middle of it, within Peter's line of sight, before bending down slightly, so they made eye contact. I found you. Peter beamed and jumped to his feet. In his excitement, his elbow knocked the ice pedestal he had to slip past, and the structure went crashing to the floor. Oh no! Here comes the Ice Queen now! He looked over in a wide-eyed awe as the vase of ice flowers shattered on the floor and sent glass-like crystals skittering down the hallway and falling into the foyer. Uh-oh. Oh my god! I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. Savannah, on the other hand, seemed unfazed. It's alright, Peter. It's just an ice sculpture. I don't know, this silence is making things pretty tense right now. Peter looked at her incredulously. But didn't it take ages to make and carve? Of course not. That is part of the Winter Maiden's magic, see? She waved her hand, and a cold wind picked up inside the hall. Peter hugged himself, shivering, and watched in astonishment as the wind seemed to pick up all the fallen pieces and reshape it back to its former glory. Each broken ice piece was picked up and melded back together as if it was, with glue. Together as if with glue. Right. Within a few moments, the pedestal, vase, and the fake flower bouquet had been put back together and straight into its rightful place. Wow. That was amazing. Oh, you think so? Of course I do. No one I know can do that. Have you ever been into the village before? Your ability with ice and snow could help so many people. We keep getting water frozen on our roofs, but if you can just, do that and whisk it all away, everyone will be happy. I'm sure there's a lot more things that she could do for you. Her face fell. I cannot go into the village. I am sworn into the forest and the Maiden of Winter and all that. Oh, are you like her daughter or something? In a way. Will I get to meet her soon? I still want to ask her to help my mom. Of course, I promised, did I not? But she will not be able to for a while. Could we maybe play a few more games of hide and seek while we wait? Peter grinned. Sure, but I want to be it this time. The two played in the ice palace for what felt like hours. Eventually, Peter was too tired to run around, hiding and seeking, and he sat down on the door by the doors in the foyer. I need to go back to my dad soon. He'll be worried. Does he not know you are away? No, as far as he knows, I'm still asleep in bed. You snuck out? No one in their right minds will announce to the village that they're going into the forest. They'd be all like, "Oh, you can't do that. There's wolves, and it's cold, and it might snow, and you'll get stuck, and we'll never find you again." All valid points, by the way. I see. I was hoping I could meet the Maiden of Winter tonight, so that I could go back and find my mom better. But I guess I'm just unlucky, huh? Savannah looked out at the open windows, at the moon hanging in the sky. I may be able to summon her if you are willing to wait here. Oh, could you? Yes. That would be wonderful, Savannah. She nodded and turned, gliding up the stairs. Peter got to his feet and dusted the snow and ice off his coat and pants. He needed to be presentable. He looked up at the sound of feet descending his stairs and blinked when he saw Savannah slowly making her way down towards him. "See, I told you this whole time! It was her! You never listened to me, do you?" She had shed her traveling cloak and was in a regal gown that trailed behind her as she walked. "Savannah, you're the maiden of winter?" Yes. She looked ashamed. "I thought you said you were her daughter." When the previous maiden dies, she is reincarnated as herself into a new body. I am all the previous maidens and all the future maidens. That sounds incredibly exhausting. Yes. But why didn't you tell me? You could have healed my mom this whole time. Savannah looked like she was going to start crying. "I get so lonely out here. I cannot go into the village because I am bound to the forest. And it is like you said, no one comes into the forest, or never far enough into the forest to find me. This is the first company I've had in decades. I just wanted a chance to play with someone." Peter stared. Savannah buried her face in her hand. "I'm sorry. I should have told you the truth." He quickly reached forward and set his gloved hand on her shoulders. Her skin was cold, and he could feel it through the fabric. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not angry. But I betrayed you. Do you not hate me? I get what it's like to be lonely. And if I were alone in the forest for decades and decades, I probably would have done the same thing, just for a chance to play a few rounds of hide and seek." She rubbed her eyes. "It's not just that, though." "Huh? The laws of nature state that for me to save a life, I have to take a life. So to save your mother by lightening the snowball, I would have to take yours." Oh, wow, that went dark real quick. Okay. He felt cold. Colder than before. It was nice knowing you, playing hide and seek with you, but now you're about to die. Although, I don't think she meant it like that, because I think this is the same guy. The same guy from the last one. "You mean kill me?" "No! Oh, thank God. No, I could never. I already feel horrible that I must bring the wind and snow and ice upon your village. I could never bring myself to hurt any of you directly. If you don't like bringing wind and snow, why don't you stop it?" "I can't. The nature of the seasons is that I must be tireless in my summoning of the elements for 3 months out of the year. Not doing so would be going against everything in the laws of nature. Sort of like a chore. Yes, I do not have a choice. So, to keep my mom from dying from the cold, you can stay here." Peter considered for a long moment. "I want to give you a choice. If you choose, you can go back to the village, but your mother will die. Or you can choose to stay here with me, and your mother will live." Very hard choice to make when you're that young. "If I stay here and live with you, my mother will live." She nodded. "Then I'll stay." Savannah nodded again. "Come then, I will show you and prove to you that I will lighten the snowfall." She reached out for his hand, and he took it. She led him up the foyer stairs, and up 2 more flights, out to the balcony overlooking the tops of the pine forest. Below them were the snow-topped trees, and above them stretched the inky sky. The stars were starting to twinkle all out in the wake of another coming snowstorm. The clouds were so dark and heavy with snow that they blended into the midnight sky. Ooh, I love that perspective! I like that shot. Whoever drew that, yes, good job. I love that. The wind whipped around the 2 of them as Sylvania raised her hands to the sky. They started to glow with the same unearthly glow that the ice palace cast in the clearing around them, and the wind picked up. Peter gripped his hat and held it down around his ears, watching as the snow swept up from the ground and into the dark clouds. They gradually lightened, as if the burden of snow was lifted back into the stratosphere. The glow softened and then disappeared entirely from Sylvania's hands. Light, fluffy, cumulus clouds were left in the wake of the dissipating storm. Wow. I will keep the clouds and snow at bay throughout the rest of the winter, and once spring arrives, I will melt the ice quickly, so that your village will be warm again. And all I have to do is stay here? We could play hide and seek again. He smiled and nodded. Sure, let's play hide and seek some more. And 20 years later, they were still playing hide and seek. Peter's arms were laden with supplies as he shut the front doors of what he had come to call home. Sylvania descended the stairs quickly, worry written on her face. Did anyone recognize you? Peter smiled and set the bags of spices and food on the ground so he could take her in his arms. Of course not. It's a growing town. New people are showing up all the time. You know, I still worry. He placed a kiss on her lips softly. I know, but I always come back. You know that. She smiled and bent down to pick up one of her bags. Come, I prepared for dinner. He picked up the other and followed her to the dining room. A fire sat in the fireplace, constructed of stone and sealed into the ice wall. Despite the heat that made Peter shed his hat and scarf, the ice walls and furniture didn't melt at all. The 2 sat down to eat with the bread and cheese Peter had procured from the village market, but was interrupted by the thundering knock on their main doors. Sylvania's eyes went wide, and her frown went upside down. Why would anyone come this far into the forest at a time like this? You never asked me that question when you found me in the forest. Ooh. The maiden didn't comment. Instead, she moved into the foyer. Peter quickly followed her, less confused and more worried. No one had ever approached the palace since he had arrived. This was a first for him. Sylvania waved the doors open and they swung into the foyer to reveal a mob of people led by an old, angry man Peter recognized as his father. Where is my son? Pardon? The man aimed a shotgun at the maiden of winter, and Sylvania sucked in a gasp of surprise. The mob shouted at her, raising weapons and torches in ferocious anger. Peter, my son! My wife said that she swore she saw him in the market today, and he disappeared into the forest when it started to snow. Peter stepped out from where the stairwell hid him. Mother saw me? Peter, get away from her! What? Why? She's a monster. Do you know how long we've been spent trying to find the Maiden of Winter so that she could bring an end to her terrible icy reign? But how long did you spend trying to find your son who disappeared is also what I wonder. Please, it's not like that. And then I find out she's kidnapped my son right from under my nose? I mean, you didn't realize that? Or did you think that he just died or something? She didn't! Her reign of terror ends now, Peter. Don't you dare. Peter moved across the foyer, closer to the mob. Sylvania watched in horror. I came here on my own accord so that Mother would get well and live through the winter. I gave my life to Sylvania so I could save my mother. Sylvania has never done anything to warrant your anger. If you had just been willing to seek her out, maybe you could have offered her the same arrangement and saved more people. I would never willingly give my service to this witch, and neither should have you. He turned his vengeful eyes to Savanya. What do you got to say for yourself? I saved your wife from that terrible winter, and I have kept your son alive. I never intended to hurt anyone with my snow and wind, but I have no choice. And you who don't have a choice about our families, our ruined crops, our frozen livestock? Savanya had a noise, but couldn't bring herself to protest. After all, she didn't. Peter knew that now. It was part of the universe, the turning of the time that eventually led to the deep freezes that kept his family from raising cows through the winter. That's what I thought. No! Savanya caught Peter's body before it could hit the icy floor. She held him to her chest, gripping him tightly in her slender arms. He smiled up at her, blood staining his lips a hollyberry red. Savanya. Peter. No, you can't leave me alone. I was so lonely, and you can't leave me alone. Peter reached up to caress her face with his hand. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be fine hiding. I'll just be hiding. Find me, okay? How romantic. Savanya gripped Peter's hand in her own. Peter. He didn't survive the next minute. And 150 years later, he was still lying on that floor, dying. Savanya looked up from where she was staring out at the blowing snow, when there was a soft knock at the door. There hadn't been a knock at the door in a long time, and she didn't want to open it, for fear of what waited on the other side. The same soft knock persisted again a few minutes later. Savanya slowly got up from the chair. The sigh she let out sent a strong gust of wind blowing through the forest and set snow flying into the sky. She trekked down the stairs and walked around on the border of the foyer to the main front door. She opened one of them and peered out at the man standing on her doorstep. Who are you? I have come seeking the Maiden of Winter, mistress to the ice and snow, and the mother of the north winds. I am she. The man immediately knelt to one knee. Maiden of Winter, mistress of ice and snow, and mother of the north winds, I have come to offer you my humble service. There is a rumor in my village that if one were to sacrifice their life to you, you would lighten the winter storms and help save someone's life. I can, but I must refuse. Please, maiden, the village has sent me because half of our people have fallen ill with a disease carried by the cold. I am willing to give my life if it means the rest of my village can survive. Savanya's face darkened, and that frown immediately went upside down, because how dare he do that after what happened to her lover? How dare he? Savanya. The snow started to fall heavier, soaking the man standing out in it. You come because you have been sent by people desperate to survive, not because you are willing to sacrifice yourself to save a loved one, and you try to represent an entire village with only yourself. I do no favors for people seeking my counsel just to keep your filthy human lives elongated against my winter. I do not need your bloodthirsty hands dirtying my lands. I do not require you to survive. If you all die in my blizzards, then so be it. She slammed the door and listened to the man start his way back to the village in the heavy snow. She turned up to stare at the sculpture of the center of the foyer. Resurrected by Savanya, only a few days after his death, Peter stood strong and confident in the center of the foyer, just as bright and happy as he had been when they had first met all those years ago. Give me a hint, Peter. Just a small hint, so I can find you. Please. Wow. That was emotional. Lots of emotion was thrown into this one, and I felt all of it. I loved it. Good writing. Good art. Well made. I enjoyed it. The music was great too. Everything that you did brought me into the scene. Even that when you cut the music, it was perfect. I just really enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.